Okay, hey everybody, I'm back. I apologize about my video earlier. My computer had lost its power and just went black, so I didn't know what was happening. So I had to charge it. In the meantime, I'm coming back because I want to finish our discussion about James and Jennifer Crumbley, and then I want to talk a little bit about their son, Ethan Crumbley, and what was kind of the diagnosis of the psychosis that one of the doctors that the defense put on the stand, his testimony. So I wanted to share with you that in between time, I have been working and I was able to post on the Hidden Horror Facebook page, the Michigan Court of Appeals, all of their written opinion. It's 17 pages long. So if you go to my page, you're able to click right on there, enlarge it, and you'll be able to read it for yourself. Um, when you do things in reverse, you can't see, but that's how you do it. Anyway, the Michigan Court of Appeals, their opinion is there. If you want to read it, it's a great read. It details the case, but there's a lot of information, and those are factual things that pretty much both sides agree on, and they base um, just hearing new information when they come in front of the three judges. So that's there. It's a great read. I recommend you read it if you have time. Um, so I wanted to show you that. So I was able to put that on the Hidden Horror page. So check that out. Um, so I want to finish up discussing James and Jennifer Crumbley. So we have to go back to the article, and that was the article that was on the Detroit News website. The article is dated June 27th, 2023, and is the title of it is Prosecutors Offer New Evidence of Crumbley's Parents' Consciousness of Guilt to Supreme Court. So I'm going to recap it a little bit because if you don't watch the other video, at least you will have information in this video. Okay. So Oakland County prosecutors have brought new evidence to the Michigan Supreme Court of the consciousness of guilt by the parents of the Oxford High School shooter as they appealed their involuntary manslaughter charges to the state's highest court. So what has happened? Ethan Crumbley's parents, their names are James and Jennifer Crumbley. When they were charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and that's for each student that was unalive during the shooting in November of 2021. So by those charges being brought against the parents, this is the first time in the United States that involuntary manslaughter charge is against the parents of a mass shooter. So it's very rare. Um, but the parents do not feel that they should be charged for this mass shooting. They feel that the responsibility is their son's. Ethan Crumbley is his alone. They're not responsible. They did not commit the act, and there is no precedent, no past history that shows that a parent of a mass shooter should be charged. So let me give you the definition of what a precedent is, and that's also on my Facebook. A precedent in its noun use, because that's what we're using it as here, is the making of law by a court and recognizing and applying new rules while administering justice. A decided case that furnishes a basis for determining later cases involving similar facts or issues. So what the parents are saying is there's no prior case. There's no prior case that shows that this has happened where parents of a mass shooter have been charged and have been charged involuntary manslaughter. So why is this happening to us? None of our actions have deemed it an appropriate charge, and we don't have any precedent that we can look to and say, well, see, in this case, these parents were charged, and they're right. And that's why new cases come along, and now new precedents are set, and they would be a precedent case for future cases that a parent can be charged for their gross negligence, because that's what it is a high level of neglect to the point where your actions have become criminal. So a lot of the writing that's in the opinion from the Court of Appeals, they refer to reasonable care. And I wanted to give a little bit of a definition for Black's Law Dictionary. What reasonable care is, it's a standard. It's a standard that the average person would do when they're involved in their kids, when they're overseeing their kids, when they're setting boundaries and rules, how they respond to their kids, their needs. Things are basically required. For example, getting your child vaccinated, getting your child regular doctor's visits, if they have some type of need. If they have an injury, you take them to the hospital. Sick, you may get some medicine. You may allow them to stay home so they can rest. Those are considered reasonable care examples. So here's the definition of reasonable as a test of liability for negligence, degree of care that a prudent and competent person engaged in the same line of business or endeavor exercise under similar circumstances. Termed due care, ordinary care, adequate care, or proper care. Okay? Get that behind us. So, in the Court of Appeals opinion, they refer to quite a bit, and they're setting the standard that they expect that both James and Jennifer Crumbley would exercise some ordinary care, reasonable care. For example, something that could be deemed reasonable care would be go up to the school and your child is drawing violent pictures depicting a violent act, blood, a gun, something that would be reasonable. Number one, maybe take your kid home. Number two, when you see it, even speak to them. There's some testimony and records that show that the parents, neither James nor Jennifer, even acknowledged Ethan Crumbley when they got to the school. When they got to Oxford High School, they didn't say anything to him. Neither of them went up to him. They hugged him. They didn't speak to him. So just different things like that. If your child is having an emergency, or if they're in some type of distress, or they're having difficulty, and you're required to go to the school, you may want to engage your child. You may want to speak to them, talk to them, ask them how they feel, what is happening, what happened, what's going on, what triggered this. How did this come about your day? Okay, why did you draw these pictures? What does this mean? Why are you upset? Did something happen to you? All these are showing reasonable care. They're showing concern. They're showing that you're connected, that you're physically there, and you're trying to help figure out what's wrong by aiding your child. Maybe another form of reasonable care in this instance would be just acknowledging their feelings and asking them, do you feel you need to talk to someone? Maybe you're not comfortable talking to the school, talking to staff, talking to a teacher, talking to a counselor. Would you like to go to a therapist? That might be something that would fall into reasonable care, even taking the child home for the remainder of the day. This was probably upsetting for the staff at the school. And of course, Ethan, because it's involving him, your parent is here, they may be upset or frustrated. So maybe you would take your child home for the remainder of the day, or maybe 2 days, or maybe you would go immediately and try to get them some type of counseling. That would be exercising some reasonable care, ordinary care. Okay, so let's go back and continue with the article. Among the revelations, County Prosecutor Karen McDonald's office noted that James Crumbley took the receipt for the gun he had bought his son with him when he and his wife Jennifer fled Oakland County after the November 2021 shooting. James Crumbley had the receipt on him when he was arrested. So just briefly, the police were looking for them to turn themselves in. They had a time where they were supposed to turn themselves into police. James and Jennifer did not do that. They let that time pass by. They did not indicate to their attorney or to the police that they were leaving Oxford, Michigan, and they end up fleeing, taking items, and then going to Detroit, where people eventually saw their vehicle and began to call in tips. And that's how they were, if you want to say, caught or found. So within all of that, the police were able to recover the receipt for the gun. But again, they necessarily don't need it because there's records for gun sales. If you purchase a gun, you have to get a background check. You have to complete forms. They will possibly have you on video. You will be signing a receipt, things like that can be shown and proven whether you keep the receipt or not. Okay, so let's keep going. Defendant's flight and the taking of the receipt for the murder weapon during such flight provide an inference of their consciousness of guilt, prosecutors wrote. So the prosecutors are trying to use their actions to demonstrate that they were conscious of what they were doing, and this was demonstrating their guilt with their actions, with fleeing, with taking the receipt, with trying to hide. These are all actions that would demonstrate guilt. While the people are prepared to present additional evidence of causation, this court need not reach that issue because the evidence presented at the preliminary examination exceeded the low bar that is the probable cause standard, prosecutors wrote. So in the prior video, we kind of discussed that the probable cause standard is the lowest standard. It's lower than reasonable doubt, preponderance of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the lowest standard. And they provided a lot of detail, a lot of information in that preliminary exam. So they met the standard of probable cause for them to be held over on these charges. The prosecutor's office added that the Court of Appeals opinion is a narrow one that is consistent with this court's precedent. The Crumbleys are charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in connection with the mass shooting their son committed at Oxford High School on November 30th, 2021, which left 4 students dead and 6 students and a teacher injured. Prosecutors said the Crumbleys were criminally negligent and could or should have foreseen the shooting. The Crumbleys' attorney, Shannon Smith and Mario Lehman, have said prosecutors cannot demonstrate that a juror could decide that a reasonably foreseeable outcome of the Crumbleys' alleged gross negligence was their son committing a shooting that day. They said that their son's criminal conduct was the sole cause of harm to the victim, and the shooting was not reasonably foreseeable. So let's just pause for a second here. We pretty much know the facts that at the time that Ethan was at school, he had the weapon in his backpack. He had the bullets in his backpack. He was ready and prepared. He had planned the shooting that day. Prior to that day, he already knew he was going to do the shooting on that day. Now, did he anticipate them finding the drawing he drew when he was in math class? A gun, blood, different writings that were vital. I don't think he anticipated them finding that writing. I think all of that just kind of happened. That was intervention, which caused his parents to be called by the school to come for a meeting about his behavior. Okay? So that part I don't think he anticipated, but I definitely know from his journal writings that he planned the shooting for that day. So I believe whether his parents were coming for the meeting or not, he was going to do the shooting. He had the weapon, he had the ammunition to do it that day. Now, what could have stopped it, of course, was if somebody had found the weapon, looked in the backpack, if his parents had taken him home as the school recommended, then of course that could have possibly changed the course of everything that happened. But that was definitely foreseeable because James and Jennifer Crumbley, they knew that he had access to guns, not just a gun that they purchased him as an early Christmas gift. They knew he had access to weapons because Mr. Crumbley had already had 2 other guns, and then the gun that they purchased for Ethan, that was his gun. So of course, they gave him access to that, and they did not have locks on any of them. If you read the court's opinion, they detail how they didn't have any locks on any of the guns, and that they kept the other 2 guns in a safe. and the code was just 000. So it was nothing that you had to really figure out. So that's not good either. If you're gonna do a code lock, do something that you can remember. That's not that easy. Okay. Smith and Lehman argue that Oakland County District Court Judge Julie Nicholson abused her discretion when she sent the cases to Circuit Court to stand trial. Oakland County Circuit Court Judge Cheryl Matthews and a panel of 3 Michigan Court of Appeal judges have already ruled against the Crumbley. In arguments and filings in District Court, Oakland County Circuit Court, and the Court of Appeals, prosecutors have laid out evidence that they say show the Crumbleys were criminally negligent when they bought their son a gun for Christmas, did not listen to his concerns about his declining mental health, and when they did not take him home the day of the shooting after they were called to the school for a meeting about concerning drawings and phrases on their son's math worksheet. So they're saying that there were 3 indicators. He had access to the weapon and the ammunition, that they ignored his declining mental health that he had been saying for months and months prior to and leading up into the mass shooting. And then 3, and lastly, the day of the shooting, they did not take him home. They did not seek any help for him. Their son had written "The thoughts won't stop, blood everywhere, and the world is dead" on the worksheet, along with drawings of a gun and a bleeding person who's been shot multiple times. So while the other kids are in class, they're learning, they're listening, they're paying attention, they're completing assignments, they may be studying, they may be preparing for a test, they may be taking notes. Mr. Ethan Crumbley, he's drawing on his work, and the things that he's drawing, they don't have any no relevance to school, to class. They're violent images. They're weapons. There's somebody being harmed. They're disturbing words, disturbing images. So while he's in school, he's not focused on classes, education, learning. He's focused on doing the mass shooting. And his journal entries, every journal entry, every page has something involved in the mass shooting that he was planning. This was something I believe he was going to try to do no matter what, because it was in his mind. It was in his thoughts. It had just taken over him. It was his focus. It was what he thought of when he was at school, when he was out of school, when he talked to his friends. It was something that had become a big part of his secret life. You know. So Jennifer Crumbley texted her husband that she was very concerned about the drawings and that they constituted an emergency. She told an interviewer after the shooting that she didn't even look at them closely, according to the latest filing by prosecutors. So the school is calling you. This isn't the first time they've called you, but the school is calling you. They're asking you and your husband to come to the school. They're asking you to sit down. They're asking you to engage your child. They're sending you images that he drew that depict violence, that have disturbing words. And you tell someone in an interview that you did not even look at the drawings closely. Jennifer Crumbley also showed a photo of the worksheet to her supervisor at the time, a co-worker and the owner of the horse farm where they boarded their horses, according to prosecutors. Jennifer Crumbley's comments to investigators were an attempt to deflect responsibility for the shooting. Prosecutors said in the filing to the Supreme Court, she also tried to absolve herself in the deaths of the other students, saying her biggest fear was that Ethan was going to unalive himself. Ethan was never going to unalive himself. He had indicated that in his journal. said that he would surrender. He did not want to be harmed. He was not going to do that. He wanted to be remembered. And he even said that people would just forget about him if he unalived himself. That he wanted to be remembered as being the biggest mass shooting in the state of Michigan. And he wanted to be remembered for 10 years. But if he unalived himself, nobody would remember him. No one would care. So he was not going to unalive himself. She didn't understand her son. Such fear only highlights the foreseeability of their son using the murder weapon, whether it be on himself or others, prosecutors wrote. He actually used the Christmas gift, the pre-Christmas gift, in the shooting. She also texted her supervisor at 1:23 p.m. just after she found out about the shooting, and 1 minute after she texted her son to say, "Don't do it." She told her supervisor her son must be the shooter and said, "I need my job. Please don't judge me for what my son did." These are some cold-hearted people. Only thinking of herself, even now. Your son has just completed a mass shooting and you're concerned about a job. 8 months prior to the shooting, on March 8, 2021, Jennifer Crumbley texted her husband saying she was freaking out when she couldn't reach her son after school. She expressed frustration with James Crumbley, saying, "I told you to pick him up because he's upset and I don't want him to do anything stupid." These messages, along with other evidence, further show the Crumbleys were aware of their son's mental distress, according to prosecutors. The Crumbly son has pleaded guilty to 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of attempted murder, and 12 counts of using it during a felony. He is awaiting sentencing. Hearing where a judge will determine if it is constitutional to sentence him to life in prison without parole, set for July 27th. Had his Miller hearing already, and the judge is set to make a decision in September of 2023 whether he will receive life with parole or life without parole. He has pled guilty to all those charges. Crumbley's each face 4 involuntary manslaughter charges connected to the death of Oxford High School students Madison Baldwin, 17, Tate Meyer, 16, Hannah St. Juliana, 14, and Schilling, 17. Okay, so I want to discuss and shift a little bit to talk a little bit more about Ethan Crumbley. I want to go over some things that kind of been said about him. And one of the things is there was a doctor that testified on inside. And something that he was describing is that Ethan Crumbley was suffering from a psychosis. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And I also want to talk a little bit about mental health in general, not just for adults, but for children also that are in school. They're having a lot of challenges. One big thing is always bullying. That's always a concern. A lot of kids, they had difficult times during COVID, during the pandemic, being alone, not interacting, not having that social time. So now the kids have been back in school. A new school year, of course, is starting up, and they're going to be coming together. They'll see their friends more, and they're really connecting through social media, video, some group chats, things like that. So we want to always be making sure that we're checking in with our kids, that we're making sure that mental health is okay, that we are connecting with them. They're not just sitting in a room all the time. They're not just sitting on the phone all the time. That we're spending time. Like it can be something simple, like, hey, let's read, let's play a board game, let's play a video game together. Let's polish our nails together. If you have a son, maybe you go outside and do something physical, yard work, I don't know, ride a bike. It's just all kind of ways that we can stay engaged with our kids. And that's very important. But in this instance, that was not happening, or that does not appear to be what was happening in Ethan Crumbley's home with both his parents, James and Jennifer, right? So something that one of the doctors said was that Mr. Crumbley was suffering from psychosis. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit more. Now, I want to give you an idea of what psychosis is. So first, psychosis refers to a collection of symptoms that affect the mind where there has been some loss of contact with reality. During an episode of psychosis, a person's thoughts and perceptions are disrupted, and they may have difficulty recognizing what is real and what is not. Okay? So I want to play this short video, and this could also help us to understand psychosis a little bit more. So I'm going to play the video first.
Courtroom, a hearing was held for the gunman who carried out a mass shooting at Oxford High School back in 2021. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the details. In a Michigan courtroom, agony on display. Victims' families crying as prosecutors played never-before-seen surveillance video of the 2021 Oxford High School shooting that killed 4 and wounded 7. Video the judge directed media not to show. A teacher describing hiding in lockdown after being shot.
Sent my husband a text message. It just said, "I love you." Active shooter.
Ethan Crumbley, often looking down, emotionless, as Oakland County prosecutors argued the now 17-year-old should serve life in prison without parole, the harshest possible penalty under Michigan law for a rampage that haunts first responders tasked with running past the wounded to stop a killer.
Something we weren't prepared for. How do you push past a child? They need help.
Crumbley pleaded guilty last year to 24 counts, including first-degree murder and terrorism charges. Prosecutors leaning on his social media posts showing off his gun, video of him at a shooting range, journal entries about torturing baby birds, and a video of Crumbley describing his desire to kill.
I understand the consequences. I understand the people put me in prison for this.
Crumbley was 15 at the time of the shooting. These proceedings are known as a Miller hearing. They're required since a Supreme Court case struck down mandatory life sentences without parole for minors. Defense attorneys argue he can be rehabilitated, that he came from a violent home and wrote about wanting help controlling his anger.
The fact that a vile offense occurred is not by itself enough to warrant the imposition of life without parole.
A judge declining to let Crumbley's parents attend the hearing, each facing charges of involuntary manslaughter, for investigators say giving their son a gun for Christmas, despite signs he may be violent. Jennifer and James Crumbley have pleaded not guilty, both via their attorneys declining to comment.
Prosecutors say these proceedings could last into early next week, and among those still expected to testify, several students who witnessed the massacre. Back to you.
Heidi, thank you very much.
We reported a lot on the Iowa State Fair this week with the Republican.
Okay, so that was brought to you by CNBC News, and the name of the article is called "Oxford School Shooter Was a Pharaoh Child Who Was Abandoned by His Parents," the expert testifies. So I want to read that to you, and then I want to go a little bit more in detail about psychosis. Okay, so let's go. A psychologist, Colin King, said the shooter was experiencing psychosis, a break from reality. He later predicted that the boy absolutely can be rehabilitated. A teenager who killed 4 students at his Michigan high school in 2021 was like a pharaoh child, deeply neglected by his parents during crucial years and mentally ill. A psychologist testified Tuesday at a hearing to determine if the mass shooter will get a life prison sentence. Ethan Crumbley's lawyers also played disturbing video from jail showing the 17-year-old in deep distress as deputies restrained him while he wailed. In one incident, his head is completely covered with a hood. No dates were disclosed. Why didn't you stop it? I'm sorry. Stop it. God, why? He said. A psychologist, Colin King, said the shooter was experiencing psychosis, a break from reality. He later predicted that the boy absolutely can be rehabilitated. A number of my clients have had issues with the law, said King, who has testified in many homicide cases. Through psychotherapy and support, they've been able to make progress. Ethan's brain is still maturing. Crumbley pleaded guilty to murder, terrorism, and other charges in a school shooting that killed 4 students and wounded 7 others at Oxford High School, about 40 miles north of Detroit. Because of his age, 15 at the time, the shooter can't automatically be given life sentence. Oakland County Judge Kwame Rowe first must consider the shooter's maturity, mental health, unstable family life, and other factors set by the U.S. Supreme Court. He can order a life sentence, but it would be a rare outcome for a teen. Crumbley otherwise would face a minimum sentence somewhere between 25 years and 40 years in prison, followed by eligibility for parole. A decision isn't expected Tuesday, the third and likely final day of the hearing. King said he spent more than 20 hours with the shooter during several meetings, interviewing him and running him through a series of psychological tests. He also reviewed the teen's dark journal entries and text messages. King disclosed for the first time that the boy believed that a gun was going to be found in his backpack on the day of the shooting when he was sent to the office for drawing violent images in class. Ethan said for the first time in his life he felt relieved. King testified. He said he just knew the sheriff was going to burst into the office and arrest him because there was no way, after all that they saw, they were going to search that backpack. But the backpack was never checked and the boy was allowed to remain in school. He later emerged from a bathroom and started shooting, as he planned. Because if you wanted that gun to be found, you could have turned it over, right? You could have told your parents. You could have went home with your parents, right? If you wanted that gun to be found, no, you just followed through on your plan. And when his mom texted him, asked him if he was okay after both his parents left, he said he was okay. And then he went and did the shooting, like 10 minutes, within 10 minutes. So I don't agree with the psychotherapy, but let's keep going. King said the shooter was raised in a turbulent home by parents who left him alone for hours, argued in front of him, and weren't discreet when discussing infidelity, divorce, and suicide. The boy was even forced to figure out what to do with his beloved deceased dog. He can be considered a feral child, King said. It is essentially a child who has been abandoned. Someone who is abandoned has what is called arrested development, he said. They lack social cues. They become misfits in society. The shooter, King concluded, has major depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder. He is mentally ill, the psychologist said. His parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, are separately charged with involuntary manslaughter. They're accused of buying a gun for their son and ignoring his mental health needs. Prosecutors want a life prison sentence with no chance for parole. During cross-examination of King, they suggested the psychologist was giving the shooter a break. People with depression all don't become mass shooters, do they? Assistant Prosecutor David Williams said. Williams repeated evidence that was entered last week, journal writings, and a video made the night before the shooting, in which the teen declared his plan to attack the school. So again, the night before the shooting, he made a video that he was going to attack the school. He also had journal writings that said, tomorrow's the day I'm going to shoot up the school. But even when his parents came the day of the shooting, that did not stop him. He never asked for help. That was his plan. He followed through on what he said he was going to do. He noted that victim Justin Schilling was executed in a bathroom. You think that's the product of a juvenile brain? Williams asked. I do, King replied. King said adults repeatedly missed opportunities to help the shooter, but Williams noted that help was just a few days away if the boy really wanted it. His parents had assured school staff that he would get counseling within 48 hours after they saw his silent draw. Prosecutors last week called 4 people who witnessed the shooting, including a staff member who was wounded and a student who saved a wounded girl. It was the first time their details were personally aired. So again, they keep referring to missed opportunities. At the time of the mass shooting in November of 2021, Ethan Crumbley was 15 years old. If he felt he was not doing anything wrong, he would not have concealed it. He would not have concealed his thoughts. He would not have hid them. He would not have hid the drawing. But when you know you're doing something wrong, you're going to cover up. You're going to hide it. You're going to be deceitful. He could have asked for help, or he could have waited those 48 hours to see a therapist. He didn't want any help. He didn't need any help because his goal was to do the shooting, and that's what he did. So we're going to be done with this. Now we're going to turn our attention to something else. Okay. We're going to talk some more about psychosis. I put a link on the Hidden Horror Facebook page, and it links you to this website called nhs.uk. And they have a lot of great information about psychosis, so we're going to go through and pretty much read some of the things that's on their website online. So you can follow the link, or you can pull it up later, okay? So first we're going to do an overview of psychosis. Psychosis is when people lose some contact with reality. This might involve seeing or hearing things that other people cannot see or hear, hallucinations, and believing things that are not actually true, delusion. So let's think about Ethan Crumbley's situation, right? Some of the things that he had messaged to his parents were, I'm hearing voices. I see a demon. Voices are talking to me. Something's in the house. They're knocking the pots over. So he had numerous incidents, according to him, where he was seeing and hearing things that were not there. So where this idea of psychosis, right, is really delusions and hallucinations. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the symptoms of psychosis. They're saying that there are 2 main symptoms of psychosis. Hallucinations. Hallucination, a person hears, sees, and in some cases feels, smells, or tastes that do not exist outside their mind, but feel very real to the person affected by them. A hallucination is hearing voices. That was something that he told. I know he told his mom that he was hearing voices. Delusions. Delusions is where a person has strong beliefs that are not shared by others. A common delusion is someone thinking there is a conspiracy to harm them, for example. The combination of hallucinations and delusional thinking can cause severe stress and a change in behavior. Experiencing the symptoms of psychosis is often referred to as having a psychotic episode. In some of Ethan Crumbley's journal writings, he was referring to himself as having a mental break. know the messages between him and a third party friend. He was saying that he lost his SHI, that he was having a mental breakdown. Here it says, when do you get medical advice? You should see a GP immediately if you're experiencing symptoms of psychosis. It's important psychosis is treated as soon as possible, as early treatment can be more effective. The GP may ask you some questions to help determine what's causing your psychosis. They should also refer you to a mental health specialist for further assessment and treatment. Now, they're saying if you're concerned about someone else, you can have them contact a GP for help. Um, there are different things that you can do, numbers that you can call. Okay, they're saying that there are some causes of psychosis. So let's go over those. It's sometimes possible to identify the cause of psychosis as a special mental health condition, such as schizophrenia. This is a condition that causes a range of psychological symptoms, including hallucinations and delusions. Bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that affects mood. A person with bipolar disorder can have episodes of low mood, which would be considered depression, and highs or elated mood, which is called mania. Severe depression. Some people with depression also have symptoms of psychosis when they're very depressed. Psychosis can be triggered by a traumatic experience, stress, drug misuse, alcohol misuse, side effects of a prescribed medicine, or physical conditions such as a brain tumor. I know in some of Ethan Crumbley's testimony, there was some testimony that he had a fall. Another incident, he could not remember what happened to him when he awoke. His parents told him that something was hit him in the head. So I guess they were trying to build some kind of case that maybe he had some type of brain injury from the accident. And also, he is saying that his parents never took him to seek any medical treatment, so he's basically undiagnosed about these two injuries. But I guess they're trying to tie that into psychosis. How you treat psychosis. Treatment of psychosis involves using a combination of medicine, therapy, and social support. Some people are recommended to take antipsychotics on a long-term basis. Other people may be able to gradually reduce their dosage and then stop taking them altogether if there is marked improvement in their symptoms. They want you to do regular checkups with the mental health care provider, of course. They are concerned where there's incidents where there could be some self-harm or unaliving, so they always want you to reach out if you need support, if you need help, if you need to talk to someone, if you need to see a doctor, if you're having a hard time. They don't want you to look at that as an option. They want you to seek some support first, so remember that. All in all, they want this to be an education process for people so that if people are struggling, if they're having a hard time, if you see it, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, if you're a parent, we want to always look for signs that there's a child that's struggling, whether it be your child or you see a child, your kid's friends possibly, or if your kid's involved in a sport or something after school, you always want to be looking for that because it's very, very serious and you have to take it serious and you want to get help as soon as possible. Don't let that linger. Don't allow that to build over time where a person is really alone or feeling in a dark place, okay? So with Ethan Crumbley's situation, I think they're trying to demonstrate that over an extended period of time that he didn't have anybody to turn to talk to, and his parents were not providing that support. They weren't getting him any medical care, any mental health counseling, any therapy, and that built up over time. And because his focus had become on a daily focusing and thinking about doing the mass shooting, and then once you add the gun to the mix, when they purchased him the gun, that gave him access. He had the ability to now complete what he was thinking and planning and preparing for when they added the gun. He had opportunity. He went to school every day. Now he has the weapon, and then now it's just left for him to do it. So that's kind of what happened in that incident. So um, for James and Jennifer Crumbley, they don't feel they're responsible. They don't feel that they should be charged at all for involuntary manslaughter, although they did get the gun. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people in the state of Michigan feel differently, maybe even across the country, because this is something that it appears could have been avoided um, through some different actions, whether it be the school, his parents, or even Ethan himself. But Ethan did come out and take responsibility for the mass shooting, like he said he was. He said he was going to go to prison for pretty much the rest of his life, and um, that appears to be what's going to happen for a long period of time, between 25 and 40 years of prison time. So he's 17 now. It's 2023, so that's going to push him to at least in his 40s. So we will see. We will see. We'll keep following. There's supposed to be a hearing in September to make a determination whether he'll get life with or without parole. So we look forward to that. Okay. So I just wanted to follow this video up since the other video I had some issues. So thank you for watching this. If you want to call it a part 2 to follow up, just hear me talk a little bit about the psychosis that the doctor said that he diagnosed Ethan Crumbley with. Tell me what you think. Do you think that he was suffering from psychosis? From reviewing his journal writings and hearing some of his ideas, I think that he did feel alone. I think that he was struggling because he was seeking his parents' attention, but I also feel like he was sane enough to know what he did was wrong. And I think that he should be held accountable. I'm glad that he pled guilty so the families don't have to go through any testimony, listening to him describe or watching the video of what happened to their kids and the community. So I'll wrap this up by just saying check out the first video because these two go hand in hand. And I want to thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you'll have time to go to my Hidden Horror Facebook page and watch some of what's going on there, especially with Court of Appeals opinion. It's an excellent read. There's the journal writings on there from Mr. Ethan Crumbley. And there's some other videos, so check those things out, okay? Thanks for watching this video. I hope that you stay safe, be smart, be savvy, and be well, friends. I will see you in the next video, okay? Take care. Bye.